By saying that you're not a string theorist, do you mean that you don't work on string theory, or you don't have high hopes that string theory is the final
No,
theory?
no, I just meant that I didn't work on it. And so you shouldn't ask me why the probability has to be at least 1 part in 1,000, because I wouldn't be able to answer you.
Okay. So do you have like any hopes that string theory could be a final theory, or it's not something that you feel
I
comfortable
have no idea.
speculating about?
I mean, it could be right. It's frustrating. People have devoted their whole lives now to string theory, and most of the people that do it are convinced that it's right. I'm, I don't want to say that those people are wrong because it's not my field. I have no idea. It would be great. I mean, it's obviously a very rich theory with all kind of things, which may be right. Um, we are stymied because of this string theory landscape. So the great advantage of string theory is that string theory apparently is a single theory. There's only one string theory. There are no parameters. It's just what it is. All you have to do is figure out its consequences. Sadly, the consequences seem to be to generate an enormous number of universes, all of which have different properties. And so the dream of a while ago, which was to predict the properties of our universe from first principles, seems to be impossible. So the idea would be, like any other theory of physics, you understand the theory very carefully. You make predictions. You say, okay, this theory predicts this, this, and this. You go and look out for those things. And if you see them, you say, great, this correctly predicted all these properties of fundamental physics, must be right. Sadly, we're now in the situation where it can make lots of predictions, and we don't know for sure. And that's unfortunate. So I really don't know.
When you refer to the string theory landscape, are you referring to these like 10 to the 500 ground
Yes,
states or so?
exactly.
And then I'm wondering, does string theory predict all of these universes, or is that just something that enters the picture with inflation and then maybe the anthropic principle? Because I'm not sure. I'm not as involved with this as you are, but I wasn't under the impression that all string theorists believe in the sort of like island multiverse conception where
So
there are all these
string theory
universes.
predicts that those possible low energy states exist. I mean, they are present as part of the theory. Whether they're populated is another question. That is to say, um, are there in fact parts of the universe or universes that have all those different 10 to the 500 or whatever uh, different possible low energy states and thus different possible laws of physics? That requires inflation. It requires eternal inflation, where inflation goes on forever, and then as inflation goes on, you can have tunneling events that get you from any place in the landscape maybe to some adjacent place in the landscape, and so on until you've produced a populated landscape with a different region of the universe or different universe in every one of those things, most of which, of course, disappear in a tiny fraction of a second, but presumably there are in this 10 to the 500, which is a huge number, many, many, many long-lived possibilities to make universes which are somewhat like ours. And we maybe live in one of those.
Mm. Okay, now that we're getting into distinctions between existence and population, things are quickly becoming philosophical, which might sidetrack us a little bit. But just to be clear, when you say that these 10 to the 500 ground states exist in the theory, you mean that there are, I'm wondering if you mean that there are potential models of the theory in which any one of these ground states is instantiated, or you mean that there must be a physically extant string in one of these ground
Exists is
states?
probably the poor choice of words. though I don't know a better one. What I mean is that um, the theory predicts that those things are possible.